What if the reason your life isn't moving forward isn't because you're lazy, or broken, or unlucky? What if it's because there's a part of you quietly pulling the emergency brake every time things start to go right? Yeah, that one stings a little. But stay with me, because if you've ever said, "I know what I should do, I just can't seem to do it," then this story is about you. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody warns you about. You're not fighting the world. You're not even fighting other people. Most days, you're fighting yourself. And the wild part? The version of you causing the chaos isn't evil. It's scared. It's protective. It's trying, badly, to keep you safe. But here's where it gets real. What if the biggest obstacle in your life isn't your job, your past, your partner, or your bank account? What if the mountain is you? Yeah, that's not motivational poster energy. That's real-life energy. Because the things blocking your peace, your confidence, your growth, aren't out there. They're built from your fears, your trauma, your habits, your beliefs, your emotional wounds that never fully healed. And every time you try to climb higher, a part of you panics and says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. This is unfamiliar. This is risky. This might hurt." So it pulls you back, not because it hates you, but because it learned, a long time ago, that playing small felt safer than playing bold. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Why do you keep procrastinating on the thing you say you want most? Why do you stay in relationships that drain you? Why do you self-destruct right when life starts improving? Why do you quit on yourself before anyone else can? That's not random. That's self-sabotage. And no, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you adapted to survive something. At some point in your life, maybe childhood, maybe a bad breakup, maybe a humiliating failure, you learned a rule. Don't get too hopeful. Don't get too close. Don't try too hard. Don't stand out. Don't trust good things. So now, every time something good starts to happen, your nervous system goes, "Nope, too risky, shut it down." And boom, you ghost opportunities. You start fights. You miss deadlines. You numb out. You shrink back. Not because you're lazy, but because your brain thinks it's protecting you from pain. Wait till you hear this. Your self-sabotage is not your enemy. It's a misguided bodyguard. It's doing its job terribly, but it thinks it's helping. And that changes everything. Because now the question isn't, how do I force myself to stop self-sabotaging? The real question is, what is this part of me afraid of? And what does it actually need? Here's a weird but powerful truth. You can want success and fear it at the same time. You can want love and be terrified of it. You can want change and feel safest staying stuck. That internal conflict, that's where sabotage is born. It's like having one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. You don't go anywhere. You just burn out your engine, and then you blame yourself for not moving. But here's where it gets real. Your brain doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about familiarity, not happiness, not growth. Familiarity. That's why you'll choose a miserable routine over an uncertain upgrade. Because misery you know feels safer than freedom you don't. Wild, right? But it makes sense. Your nervous system is wired for survival, not success. So when you try to level up, it reads that as danger, and it deploys its old defense strategies. Procrastination, perfectionism, overthinking, avoidance, people-pleasing, self-doubt. All different costumes, same fear. Don't get hurt again. But here's the twist nobody talks about. That part of you isn't wrong for wanting safety. It's just stuck in the past. It's still living in an old chapter of your life. A chapter where being small was smart. A chapter where trusting people backfired. A chapter where trying hard ended in humiliation. So now it's using outdated software to run your present life. And the cost? Your peace, your confidence, your potential. But here's the good news. You're not broken. You're just unintegrated. There's a version of you that wants more, and there's a version of you that wants safety, and they're at war. But what if Instead of choosing one, you learned how to make them work together. Because that's where self-mastery actually begins. Not with force, not with shame, not with hustle culture nonsense, but with awareness, compassion, and emotional honesty. But here's where it gets real. Before you can climb your mountain, you have to understand how it was built. Because the next step is recognizing your sabotage patterns without hating yourself for them. And that's where everything changes. But wait till you hear this. But here's where it gets real. Awareness alone won't save you. Yeah, I know, that hurts to hear. Because you can journal for years, you can watch therapy TikToks, you can understand your trauma inside and out, and still self-sabotage your life into the ground. Why? Because insight without action is just entertainment. So here's the next level. You don't just notice your patterns. You interrupt them in real time, in the moment, when it's uncomfortable, when it's awkward, when every cell in your body is screaming, "Do the old thing, it's safer." This is where self-mastery actually starts. Not with motivation, with micro-decisions. Here's the move that changes everything. Reframe resistance as information. That heavy, anxious, "I don't want to do this" feeling, that's not a stop sign. That's a dashboard light. It's your nervous system saying, "Hey, this feels unfamiliar. Hey, this feels vulnerable. Hey, this reminds me of something old and scary." Instead of backing away, you get curious. You ask, what am I actually afraid of right now? What's the worst-case scenario my brain is playing on loop? What part of me feels unsafe? And 9 times out of 10, it's not about the email you haven't sent. It's about fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being seen, fear of being judged, fear of messing up again. So instead of forcing yourself, you soothe yourself. You tell that scared part of you, "I hear you. You're not wrong for being scared, but we're not in that old situation anymore. I've got this now." It sounds corny. It works. Because here's the truth. You don't need more discipline. You need more emotional safety. Most people procrastinate not because they're lazy, but because their body is in fight or flight. And you can't build a better life from a survival state. So you slow down, you breathe, you ground yourself, you shrink the task. Which brings us to the next power move. Micro shifts. Not massive overhauls, not new year, new me nonsense. Tiny, almost embarrassingly small actions. Send one email, write one sentence, drink one glass of water, take one walk around the block, set one boundary. Because action builds evidence, and evidence builds confidence. Every tiny win sends your nervous system a new message. Oh, we can do hard things and survive. We can change without dying. We can grow without losing everything. And that rewires your brain. But wait till you hear this. There's a reason you keep repeating the same patterns with different people, different jobs, different relationships, different cities, same emotional drama, different cast. Because you don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve. And until your self-concept changes, your life won't. Which is why one of the most powerful practices in this entire journey is this: future self embodiment. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing today?" you ask, "What would the version of me I respect do right now?" Not the perfect version, the grounded version, the healed version, the confident version, the one who's already climbed half the mountain. And then you act from that place, even if your emotions haven't caught up yet. That's not fake. That's leadership. Because here's the secret nobody tells you.
Your identity doesn't change first. Your behavior does. You don't wait to feel confident to take confident actions. You take confident actions, and your brain updates your identity to match. But here's where it gets real. There's a difference between intuition and fear, and most people confuse them. Fear is loud, chaotic, urgent, dramatic. It says, what if everything goes wrong? What if you embarrass yourself? What if this ruins your life? Intuition? Quiet, calm, grounded, neutral. It says, this isn't aligned. This feels right. Wait. Go. Learning to tell them apart will save you years of self-sabotage. Here's a quick test. If a thought makes you feel panicked, rushed, or ashamed, it's fear. If a thought makes you feel steady, clear, or quietly certain. But here's the part nobody wants to hear. Your new life will cost you your old one. And breakups hurt. You will outgrow people. You will disappoint some folks. You will lose versions of yourself you used to rely on. And your brain will say, see, this is why we shouldn't change. But that's just grief talking. And grief is part of growth. But here's where it gets real. The goal is not to become fearless. It's to become self-trusting. To know that even if things go wrong, you won't abandon yourself. And once you build that, self-sabotage loses its job, because it no longer has anything to protect you from. But here's where it gets real. There's one final shift that ties all of this together, and it's the difference between constantly starting over and actually becoming unstoppable. But wait till you hear this.
But here's where it gets real. Everything you've heard so far, it doesn't mean anything unless you decide to stop making peace with the version of your life that hurts you. Yeah, that one hits different. Because at some point, self-sabotage stops being tragic and starts being a choice. Not a conscious one, but a pattern you keep agreeing to. And here's the quiet truth nobody says out loud. You don't stay stuck because you don't know better. You stay stuck because staying stuck is familiar, predictable, safe. And your brain loves safe, even when safe is miserable. So the final shift, the one that turns self-sabotage into self-mastery, is this: radical self-honesty. Not self-judgment, not self-hate. Self-honesty. It sounds simple. It's not. It means looking at your life and saying, I am exactly where my habits, boundaries, and beliefs have led me. Oof. No excuses, no blame, no victim story. Not because you deserve shame, but because you deserve your power back. Because the moment you admit, I am participating in my own stagnation, you also unlock, I can participate in my own growth. And that's dangerous. In the best way. But wait till you hear this. There's a moment on every hero's journey called the dark night of the soul. It's the point where denial stops working, where distractions stop working, where you can't unsee your patterns anymore, where you realize, if you don't change, this is your life forever. Same cycles, same heartbreak, same anxiety, same regret, different year. And that moment, it feels awful, heavy, lonely, terrifying. But it's also a gift, because pain is the only thing that breaks denial, and denial is the only thing keeping you trapped. So if you're in that moment right now, where you feel restless, dissatisfied, like your soul is screaming for more, congratulations, you're waking up.
But here's where it gets real. You don't heal by becoming someone else. You heal by becoming more of who you already are. Not the trauma version, not the scared version. The real version. The one under the coping mechanisms. The one under the people-pleasing. The one under the fear. And that version is already strong, already worthy, already capable. It's just been buried under years of survival mode. So now your job isn't to fix yourself. It's to unlearn the things that are no longer true. Like, I'm too much. I'm not enough. I always mess things up. I don't deserve good things. I have to earn love. I should stay small. Those aren't facts. They're trauma echoes. And every time you challenge one of them, you chip away at the mountain. But wait till you hear this. There's a kind of peace that only comes after self-mastery. Not the fake peace of avoidance, not the numb peace of distraction. The real peace. The kind that comes from knowing, I won't betray myself anymore. The kind that comes from keeping promises to yourself. The kind that comes from choosing growth even when it's uncomfortable. The kind that comes from being proud of your own courage. And that peace is addictive. Because once you taste it, you can't go back to chaos. But here's the final truth nobody can run from. Your new life will cost you your old one. Your excuses, your denial, your victim stories, your comfort zone, your toxic habits, your outdated relationships. And yeah, that's scary. But staying the same is scarier. Because one day you will wake up and realize you've spent years waiting to become someone you already were capable of being. And that regret is heavier than any fear. So here's your final challenge. Not a motivational quote, not a vision board, a real, uncomfortable, life-altering question. What is the one pattern in your life you already know is sabotaging you, that you've been making excuses for? Yeah, that one. The one your gut just pointed at. What would your life look like 6 months from now if you stopped choosing that pattern? What would change? Who would you become? What would finally open up for you? Because that decision is the start of your ascent. That's the first step up your mountain. And you don't have to climb the whole thing today. You just have to stop digging yourself deeper. So if this hit home, if something inside you just cracked open a little, don't scroll away like nothing happened. Hit subscribe. Stay on this journey. Start letting go of the version of you that needed to self-sabotage to survive. Because you don't need to survive anymore. You're allowed to live. And the mountain was never your enemy. It was your initiation, your proving ground, your invitation to become who you were always meant to be. And you've got everything it takes to reach the top. Start the ascent. You've got this.